remember asking like my Sunday school teacher, well, if God made the world, then who made God? And no one had an answer for me.
Now, y'all know I usually deal with eschatology, but I wanted to deal with this. This really isn't a difficult question. It's a theological question, and I mean we don't know who your Sunday school teacher was. It could have just been some young person that they got to deal with the kids. But typically, people who are at a church have a basic theological understanding on who God is, at least enough to answer that simple question. Nobody created God. God is not someone who needed creating. Everything was created by God. It's really as simple as that. Psalm 90 and 2 says, before the mountains were born, or you brought forth the earth and the world, even from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. Now, if a person can't wrap their head around that as an answer, it doesn't make the answer not true. That's just what the answer is. It's up to you whether or not you want to accept it.
Yeah, I asked my parents, and then I asked my housemates, and one of my aunties. I remember I kept on asking for like a whole week, and she goes, "If you keep asking that question, you go mad."
So you ask these people close to you in your life, apparently your parents, your housemates, and your auntie, and they no one none of them could give you an answer that was sufficient. I mean that doesn't prove that there's no one who can provide a good answer. It just means that the people that you ask have no biblical knowledge or had no biblical knowledge. I mean, and you said he said he was 7 or 8 at the time, and he concluded that no adults knew what was up with that question. Come on, man. The fact of the matter is, I know it's popular on this app. All these, people who are self-proclaimed atheists have all these accusations against God, have all these arguments against God and against Christians and stuff like that. But we don't have to prove anything as believers to anybody about the existence of God. These words right here are absolutely true. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes, both his eternal power, divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood through what has been made, so that they are without excuse. Now, this fighter also said this.
Now, over the years, I've gone through a renaissance with religion in a sense where, like, I know how many people wrote the Bible. I know it was written by so many different men. It was misconstrued, and then there's the New King James version.
All right, so I just want to point a couple of other things out. I mean, knowing how many different people wrote the books of the Bible, what does that have to do with anything? What does that have to do with who made God? Answering that question. Nothing. That's an obvious fact that anybody can figure that out, that the Bible, what we call the Bible, is 66 books put together. It's a small library is what it is. No one ever thought that one person wrote the entire Bible. Anyways, he brings up the Bible being misconstrued. What does that mean? Who how can you prove that? Says who? There's a field called textual criticism. I mean, we know that there are plenty of different manuscripts. We know that there are spelling errors. We know that there are textual variants, things like that. But even the leading atheist, self-proclaimed atheist, Bar Ehrman, will say we know exactly what the original text said. We have all the evidence that can tell us what the Bible actually said. So when people say things like the Bible has been misconstrued, it's been mistranslated, it's been this and that, prove it. I mean, quote a scripture, show us. Like you're gonna have to you're gonna have to show us what it said in the original language. You're gonna have to demonstrate where it was changed along the way, who changed it. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't just people can't just make these statements and not back them up. I know that's what people do on the internet, but you can't do that. Like no one should believe them after that. No one should listen to them. Next, he brought up the New King James Version randomly. There were plenty of English Bibles before the King James Version, the authorized version. And then later on, the New King James was just a revision, a modernized revision of the King James. So I'm not too sure where bro was going with that. Again, that has nothing to do with your original question, which was who created God?
But I've also, again, I've been on some trips where I feel like I've been there. You know what I mean? I know what you mean. Yeah, I feel like I was like, and then we connect and we talk, or not English, but like, and I'm just like, okay, bet. And then now I'm in a spot in life where even recently, like you see some of my posts, I'm like, yeah, thank God.
Now, people have religious or spiritual experiences all the time. How do you know that that was God? You just said you felt something. You know what I'm saying? Or he did. You know what I'm saying? Now, thanking God for something is not unique. That's not anything special. People do that all the time. People thank their personal God, whatever they think God is, whatever God is to them, they're gonna thank them for the good in their lives. The question I would ask is, uh, what about Jesus? Is this God that you're thanking? Does when you have these conversations with him, what do they say about Jesus, his son? Because if this particular God or force or spirit or whatever isn't bearing witness to his son, Jesus, then it's probably not the God you think it is. It's definitely not the God of the Bible. Anyways, to answer the original question, who created God? Nobody created God. God did not need to be created. Everything came from him. So, it's as simple as that. Psalm 90, verses 1 to 2.